That took longer than expected to start from when I posted that thing, so I'm getting a doctor's appointment and there is and it wasn't even a text SMS message. It was not yes. It was phone going beep beep because I'm now on YouTube. That's very convenient and such. Good design. Good design. Perhaps a hacker would go to my channel and upload as me. Yes, yes. Anyway, the thing about which I wanted to discuss, the biblical book of Revelations. I don't want to go into the details of the particulars of the war in the book of Revelations, but I do want to point out that in the 2nd and 3rd century, when Christianity was being formed, they had a long and deep conversation about who is right, about what warrants hell, and whose version of the Bible to believe. This is roughly analogous to the period of the Roman Civil War. Not entirely the same period, but you would not be off by much if you believed it to be. Now, the point behind this is that they came to the conclusion that no human can actually decide who goes to hell or not. What can be decided, and that is how the Bible was formed, is that at the end of days, the last chapter, after all the religious hoopla of the various religious beliefs around the good guy this book is about, the last chapter, there will be some kind of unified golden era. It will prove to be false. And then there will be some kind of, bad time. And after that, there will be a period where you will be reviewed by various religious icons, including Jesus, but not limited to Jesus. And they and you, in some form of communion, will decide where you will go. That is roughly the end point of the Bible. Now, the reality why this is important is that before you get to the end point, they say in the very book of Revelations, you will lie in the ground and you will be dead. Period. Now, at the end of times, you will awaken and you will be reviewed, but that will be at the end of times. Now, before the end of times, you just lie there and you just dead. That's what the Bible's book of Revelation says. It is the revelation that came to the Christians when they were trying to decide whose version gets them into heaven, and decided nobody can find it, but they can all find heaven. So, at the end of the day, you go to the ground, something happens, you wake up. Then review, then you go somewhere. It's between you and review. You call it you and Jeebus, but you're focusing on only Jeebus. But Jeebus say he give you two options. You go here or you go somewhere else. No definition of what else is, just ruled by other things. Jesus say, here is my house, here is door, you're welcome. You're also welcome to go somewhere else. You're also welcome to build a house next. It's not like you must go here. Then it will be decided. But before that, after death, no hell. After death, no heaven. Lying in ground. After some point of time, after lying in ground, waking up, then review, then going where you want to go. That's at you and review, which is with everyone else who has died, who have been resurrected at the same time, or roughly. There might be academic administrative delay in process of reincarnation, but same time, that's why saying you go to hell is very inappropriate for a Christian. You just die. My belief, based on my esoteric research, is that there is this phenomena called life expectancy. You know it from not the Bible, but every word of truth you have ever spoken. Now, our research into the life expectancy phenomenon everywhere, as far as research goes, is that for every month or year that you live, you get sometime more to your life expectancy. And this amount of more is more for people who live later than people who live earlier. So it extends quicker than 1 month for the next year. Because for this year, if you live an entire year, next year you are expected to live a month longer than what you were expected at birth. Now, at the second year, if you live 2 years, it's 1 month and 1 day. And this is universal. It may not be 1 day and it may not be 1 month, but the progression of increase is constant. Now, at some point, due to this phenomena, human life expectancy will increase faster than human life expectancy itself. In other words, we will have an excess of life, not an excess of death. Now, when we reach that point, there are eschatological decisions we have to make as a species. Until then, we are a species dominated by death and the struggle against it. When we reach that point, we will have, for the first time as a species, an excess of life. I have been able to, in simulations, produce this phenomena in limited amounts. If you pick a nation or a region which is underdeveloped, you can increase its life expectancy for every year that it lives by overdeveloping it, by taxing the regions that are overdeveloped. You can do it. But to increase it planetarily, I have not been able to do. You can pick regions that are very, very worse off and actually have them develop to better off states quickly if you pay attention to it. But for the whole planet, not at this point. I believe this is what we call the Kardashev scale, being able to implement planetary changes, which we are not able to do. We are able to by-produce planetary changes, but we are not able to produce planetary changes, which is why we're not able to produce the limiting factors for the by-produce of our planetary changes. Which is why, whoops, as a species, that might be the much talked about end of filter or whatever. Both calluses are softly peeling off due to weight loss. That is so good. So freaking good. And it feels so much better in what. So, how was that thought? Book of Revelations clearly says, after death, no heaven or hell, lying in ground. After lying in ground for time we do not know, you wake up. Then you have review with your God, all other gods, all other people who have ever died, and you pick where you go. It may be influenced by who you were in life, but you pick where you go. Some gods may not allow you to come in. Some gods may. That is life. My understanding of when that happens is when the life expectancy increases for every year that you live more than a year. Therefore, making humanity both functionally immortal as well as able to bless others, which will generate the ability to either make other forms of life immortal or raise the dead. And I believe Christianity will make a strong compulsion towards raising the dead at that point. And my discovery in the catacombs in Eve points to the fact that, yes, they will indeed plan to raise the dead. They are gathering the dead for the sake of raising the dead. Nobody makes that much attention to how you can gather the dead into various data files and scrolls unless they're planning to resurrect them. That's what it says to me. They are reasoning in that fashion. Then we will go back in time, resurrecting every human and get back to Adam and Eve. And then Adam and Eve will be alive and they can tell us for themselves what it was like to be there at the beginning. Simply because we have developed so much. There is no simple answer to how to increase life expectancy. We will all find it eventually. Seems to be just living. Continuing to enjoy life seems to be the answer. That seems to be the choice. I am feeling much better, but still pretty bad about my heart health now that I'm losing weight, because when I sit down, I can feel my stomach, even though it is quite small, but I can still feel it pushing against the lungs and the heart and the chest in general. And that is uncomfortable for my heart. The feet, if the calluses now start to soften up now that the hard part has been peeled off, I will be looking at good feet in about 2 months. Then I will make the hard ethical choice of either working out or choosing to walk longer and longer distances to go to convenience stores. That will be sufficient to train my body to any condition that I choose. If I have to walk 5 miles for a glass of energy drink that is light and not sugar and like 1 protein bar every day, I believe I will be in quite good condition, physically speaking. That is my exercise plan. And then if I happen to feel weak in the arms, as I currently do, I will do a few push-ups every here and there. Right now, I am focusing on lowering the weight instead of exercising. I will be doing the exercising later. It is uncomfortable to do when you have body mass. I do not know who instructed you to gain mass and then exercise. It is a stupid idea. I heard this to be said. I believe my plan is appropriate. It roughly boils down to find the largest intake of sugar and switch it to a light product. If you drink like 5 cups of coffee a day and eat 2 donuts, or like 1 donut or 1 bagel, that's like you're not gonna eat like whatever, and you put 5 sugar cubes into each cup of coffee, try using some sugar substitute that is healthy without calories in it, and maybe a little bit of a lighter choice in the donut, not changing it out outright, but perhaps something lighter. And that is about it. If you are able to do that, and that is your largest intake of sugar, what should happen is that after about a week on it, food cravings will go down significantly. And that will be your thing. Then once you start to notice you're losing weight, keep doing what you're doing. Then at some point, if it starts to continue to lose and you start to feel uncomfortable about losing, look at eating maybe 1 more meal. And for exercise, try to favor bikes or walking, and try to not push yourself to go there, but if time, weather, and mood allows, walk to the most distant store, not just, I'll go one more block, just walk 4 blocks and pick a particularly cute looking store. Find the one you like. And in terms of exercise, you can. So, the nuclear war. So, Stellaris, which is my current view into the future, preferred one, used to be Fate of the World. Masters is for the modern age. It is when you want to do something in the world. So, give me a moment. So much better. So, in Stellaris, it starts at the 22nd century, as in, well, actually 23rd century, as in 2200. Fate of the World ends in 2200. My planet starts as a partially psychic, high consumer good usage and production, high living standard, and the life expectancy is about 130. So that's maybe 160 or something. And it's now 2,396 or so. Life expectancy is 210. The planet started as a tropical planet, which fits my Fate of the World gameplay. And we started as an aquatic civilization, but we were humanoids as an aquatic values and buildings and such, which also fits my Fate of the World. And as we developed, we started to turn our home planet more and more from agricultural production to high-end manufacturing, and we reduced more and more the amount of mining and energy production facilities because we had those in orbit, and our planet became more and more stable and other like happy and so on and so forth. And by now we've moved about half of our planet's population or our civilization's population off-world. They live in habitats that we have in our own solar system. We can go to other stars, but as far as we've ventured, we found no habitable planets. But there are habitable planets because there are other civilizations out there. There's this very loose, very early on galactic coalitionist thing. Not everybody belongs to it, for example. This blobbish thing. And I am, if I boost my size of power or perception of power or whatever, I am second largest. And the largest is this militant guy who keeps attacking all the minor civilizations, and I'm this life extending psychic aquatic civilization, which is more of my core value. And I have this loose coalition of, on my left side on the galactic plane, the people of Stone and Tree, and they are old-time allies, and we're moving towards me giving them access to all my technologies, but it's taking longer than I expected, but I am now taking fastening steps towards it. Right now, we have a technology, defense, immigration, open border, and so on and so forth treaties. They are giving me faster rate of technological development, and I'm giving them uh, participation in every military conflict that they have, not just defensive. And thus, I'm gaining technology, and they're like, let's say, gaining appreciation of the galactic community, and just move on from it. After a while, I'm going to be able to move to a point where I give them all my technology and they don't have to give me technology benefits, and they get a larger navy, but it takes time. On my right is a civilization. When I first contacted them, looked like a six-legged water bear, perhaps an eel-like structure of a water bear. And they were very hostile, but they have evolved into a spiritual xenophile, as in liking of new and other cultures. And they look like a combination of a slug and a tree and a flower. They look very pretty. I find their development to be most interesting, as I have not done any specific steps to develop them in that way. They have gained, as I have, the ability to change some levels, but not all of the genetic strain. So some changes are possible, but you are still going to retain roughly your initial shape. And I developed a technology to interbreed with any sentient civilization, and I have my home star system set to a very appealing location for immigrants in the galaxy. So about 2/3 to maybe 3/4 of my planet or my entire civilization's population is none of my original species, which is why my size with one star system is the second largest in the galaxy, when the largest guy is an expansionist empire. The other actively expansionist evil empire was to my border in the south, and I lost my initial war with them, and so did many other small guys. But they were unable to keep up with the economic development, and then a shipping alliance, which had a major economic interest in the region, just overran them. I've built, because I have a small area of stars, a very rugged defense. I would be very hard to take on at this moment. Not impossible, but very hard. But due to the fact that the two largest neighbors in my coalition both are giving me technology at the expense of their ability to build navies as a group, we are exceptionally weak at the moment. And taking us on would actually be quite easy. But luckily, we have defensive alliances with almost everyone due to the nature of the galaxy. So the current threat is either a fallen empire, as in somebody who was in the previous generation of the galaxy, one of the controlling guys who withdrew to one system and just hangs around there and does nothing. If one of those guys wakes up and starts to beat us with a stick, we'll be pretty dead. And then eventually the galaxy will be colonized by somebody who may or may not be friendly from outside the galaxy. And that may not be good. There's also the chance of technological or other kinds of cataclysms like Grey Goose scenarios happening to the entire galaxy, which is why I'm building such a robust defense. It's costing me some amount in terms of development speed, but I'm choosing to actually pay it quite gladly. Now, the next step is to turn the overheated jungle planet to an actual Gaia planet. Gaia planet is defined by optimum life conditions all throughout the planet. And if you look at Earth from space, there are regions such as the deep sea itself, which are mostly devoid of life. We currently don't have the technology to design them in a way where they would be as filled with life as continental shelves, as in where most fishing boats, for example, are. But the Gaia technology would allow us to turn the entire planet into such that its native habitants of that particular ecosystem would be able to live everywhere across that ecosystem. And that would be kind of the dream. So a lion would be able to essentially live on the North Pole. That's like not putting it perhaps too broadly, but within some kind of understandable structure. Perhaps it makes sense. Not to say a lion lives on the North Pole, but some kind of understanding of it being an optimum planet, which at the point of 200 and 2200 at the game start at 3 degrees Celsius heating pre-Earth is not an optimum planet. Pre 19 something. The other choice, which we can also do, is to turn our homeworld into what you know as a coruscant. We have the funding and the ability to do that. But I do not like a coruscant type planet. I would rather go for the benefit of a Gaian type planet that if your planet is invaded, the ecosystem will actively seek to repel the invader. That is a Gaian type planet. That is what I would actively go for. When you get sick, there would literally be a bird flying to your window with painkillers. That's what I mean by a Gaia planet. You can say that some organisms on this planet live in a Gaia like environment when they reach a certain level of enlightenment about their living conditions. But I'm talking about a life where the choice before awareness of environment is that your environment is Gaia and awareness of that. Before you are aware of sentience, you are aware that your planet is perfect paradise. That's at 2390 with an average life expectancy of 210 years. With a robust diet and life habit, you may get to 235. So if you are born at the end of the fate of the world model, you might experience your home world at the end of it converting to Gaia, as in going through the entire process. The Fate of the World simulator currently doesn't have the proper tools to convey the change of Earth into Gaia. But I believe with a small amount of modding, it might be possible and actually a preferable thing to making my own game. It would be a little wonky, but I would accept it. If we add 5 to 10 cards, the fate of the world and extend it to 2500 and call it Gaia transformation mod, then we have what I'm aiming for. Then we have what I'm aiming for. Because that would be perfection. The idea that when you reach a certain point of ecological balance, which is the life expectancy thing, your planet receives life from you and feels your absence as death, is very touching. That would be very good. That would be good. That would be Gaia transformation. So we have in 10 to 15 years in Stellaris the ability to do that. Once we begin doing that, it will take another 10 years to finish, but we will be able to do it. It will cost us something along the lines of 5 years of the entire industrial production of our entire empire, which is about 300, maybe even 1,000 times more, 100 to 1,000 times more than what Earth had during the steam age era in terms of production. If you say late steam era, just before it turns into industrial or just before it turns into is it atomic next? About 100 to 1,000 times more for 10 years to turn the planet to Gaia. Not within our reach to do. But if we add the fate of the world, some kind of actually, this looks good as a vote.